Mic's alive.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Te mea tuatahi, mihi atu nei kia tātou ko huhui mai nei ro te tēnei reo karango te Kotahitanga Ngāti Tūwharetoa. Te mea tuarua, mihi atu nei kia tātou runga te aroha whakapono māramatanga me te rangimāriatanga ihoa me tana tamaiti ko iu karai te tūturu. I tika ana ngā kōrero nā ngā mea katoa mai te timatanga tainoa ki ro te tēnei haora, ro te tēnei huihuinga o tātou. I mihingia nei kia tātou i ro te tana aroha. Nā reira e pā, manaki tia mai kia mātou ko te hunga ora. Kia rātou hoki ko ngā tamariki e kore ai ngā whānau, hei tiaki a rātou. Ana ko mātou e kore ai he whare māhana, kia whakamāhana i a mātou. E pā, tiakina mai, tiakina mai, tiakina mai. Ana ko rātou ki tēnā kāinga, ki tēnā kāinga, ki tēnā kāinga. Tēnei te mihi kia koe, kia koutou katoa. I tōnu nei a ahuatanga. I ro te aroha whakapono māramatanga me te rangimāriatanga i nāia nei, āke nei. Āmene.
Āmene.
He anō, i mihi ati nei kia tātou. I mihi ati nei kia tātou ko ngā kanuhi e ko huhu mai nei tēnei hui a tau o te Kotahitanga o Ngāti Tūwharetoa. Tuarua e mihangia nei kia rātou ko ngaro ati ki te pō. Ā rā, kua whāriki tia rātou i a mātou e whaiake nei ki te hoki atu ki te kāinga tūturu o ngai tātou ko te iwi Maori, ko Hawaiki Nui, Hawaiki Roa, Hawaiki Pāmāmao. Nā reira, e ki ananda kōrero, haere atu rā, whakangaro atu. Nā reira piti hono, tātai hono. Ana ko tātou te hungora, tēnei te mihi. Tēnei te mihi ko ngā kanohi e tūtuki ai i tēnei tūāhuatanga. Kāre e tūtuki ngā kanohi kei runga te marae, ngā tikanga o ngā wā o mua. He anō, ana koe nei te tikanga i puta mai, nā te urutā i takahia i a mātou nei. He anō, tēnei te mihi kia tātou, i runga te aroha whakapono, māramatanga, i nāia nei, āke nei. Āmene.
Āmene.
So, on behalf of our panel here and the trustees of Te Kotahitanga, I welcome us all, and thank you for your attendance. Our numbers will be shortly put up, and I can then record that accordingly. Following on from this, we will now go and introduce the panel starting on my right and then working across the whole desk. Kei a koe.
Kia ora koutou. Ko Grant Smith toko ingoa, ko Ngāti o Kairo, ki Tongariro, ko taku hapu. I'm the properties member for Te Poari Mahi. Ngā mihi kia koutou.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Ko George Asher hau. I uri a hau no ngā hapu o Ngāti Krauia me Ngāti Tūrangi Tukua. Kei te mahi a hau mo te Poari Mahi o te Kotahitanga o Ngāti Tūwharetoa. Kia ora.
Kia ora koutou. Ko te ngaihe wanikau toku ingoa. Ko Ngāti Hikairo ki Tongariro toku hapu. He uri a hau no ngā hapu katoa o te mātāpono o Ngāti Tūwharetoa. He member hau kei ronga i te Poari Mahi o te Kotahitanga o Ngāti Tūwharetoa kei te mihi.
Tēnā anō koutou. Ana ko wiari rauhina taku nei ingoa. Ko taku tūranga, ko Ngāti Moikino i noho ai a hau i ro te tērā turu. Ko hau te tiamana o te Kotahitanga o Ngāti Tūwharetoa.
Tēnā koutou, ko tānia te ākau taku ingoa, huri a hau o Ngāti Mananui, Ngāti Hinamihi, Ngāti Te Maunga, Turumakina, me hapu maha o Ngāti Tūwharetoa. I'm the chairman of, the deputy chair of Te Kotahitanga.
Kia ora tātou, ko Danny Lachlan taku ingoa. I'm the alternate for Ngāti Ruingarangi. I am a member of the Finance Committee and a director on Te Kotahitanga o Ngāti Tūwharetoa Trustee Custodians Limited. Kia ora tātou.
Thank you, panel. So our agenda for today is shortly will be the Chair's report, operations reports, financial reports, and question and answers. I'll now hand it over to Tanya, who will go through the housekeeping for today's hui and our roll call.
Kia ora te whānau. Just firstly, our AGM, just to let you know that our AGM will be recorded today, and the live stream, of course, will be recorded. So we'll be using Slido for you to vote on our pollings, and you'll see that up on the screen at the moment. So you must log into Slido for you to be able to vote at all. To ask a question, please click on the question and answer button, and so that's at the top of the blue, in the blue along the top of the screen, Q&A. You click on there and then you're able to ask your question. The questions will be moderated so that we don't have 20 questions of the same, and they will come through to us and we'll be able to ask those questions, and I will pass those on to the relevant whānau here at the table for you to answer. Any unanswered questions from today's live stream will be answered. They will come out via email. With the voting, please submit your vote on a resolution by clicking on the polls button. Once the polls button comes up, as you see on your screen, you will be able to tick the in favour or to tick the against. Once you have done that, please check the send button and your vote will come through to us. Kia ora. So next we'll just introduce our delegates and our marae, so that will happen now. Kia ora. Te Kotahitanga is represented by our ariki Tumu Te Heuheu and a delegate and alternate from each of our 26 hapu. We are pleased to introduce to you our delegates as at 31st March. We start at Tokorangi, where sits our most southern marae, Te Tikanga marae, Ngāti Waiwai. Your delegate Lou Chase and alternate Paula McKenzie. Moving up along our pai maunga to Ngāti He Kairo ki Tongariro, Otuko, Papakai and He Kairo marae. Your delegate Anthony Himopoa and alternate Tyrone Bubs Smith. Into Ngāti Hinamihi, Kauriki, Takaputiraha and Petania marae. Your delegate Dominic Ortami and alternate Rowan Yeatman. To Ngāti Mananui, representing Kakahi, Maniaiti and Pukawa marae. Your delegate Tania Teako and alternate Haki Williams. Moving to our Western Bay area, Paukura marae, Ngāti Parikawa, your delegate Kia Paranahi and alternate Sarah Jane Cuthers. Along to Whanganui Bay marae, representing Ngāti Te Maunga, your delegate Mandy Brown and alternate Miriana Hepi. To Waihaha, Ngāti Whioro, your delegate Hariata Kens and alternate Velma Adams. We now reach the 5 hapu of Mokai marae, your Ngāti Ha delegate Merehira Savage and alternate Gina Rangi. Ngāti Moikino, your delegate Weari Rohina and alternate Kempairata. Your Ngāti Tarakaiahi delegate Barbara Moana and alternate Miriama Martine. Your Ngāti Te Kōhera delegate Craig Ahipene and alternate Stephanie Verlinden. And your Ngāti Wairangi delegate Rangimari Harrison and alternate Matt Andrews. Moving to our whānau at Kawerau, to Te Waiū o Tūwharetoa, your delegate Tōmairangi Fox and alternate Colin Skerritt. Coming back to Oroanui, where sits Oroanui marae, Te Kapa o Te Rangiita, your delegate Gail Leaf and alternate Celeste Miller. Into Nukuhau, to Te Rangiita marae, where sits Ngāti Ruingarangi, your delegate Michael Little, and alternate Danny Lachlan. And Ngāti Te Urunga, your delegate, Whakaeke Ritete, and alternate Moira Bramley. Down a little bit further to Nukuhau Marae, Ngāti Rauhoto, your delegate Waihaki Rameka, and alternate Vernon Rameka. We now come to Waipahihi Marae, your Ngāti Hingerau delegate Te Moana Nui Rameka, and alternate Ruruhia Rameka. And Ngāti Hineure, your delegate Nigel Baker, and alternate Te Reo Whakakotahi Wara. Moving down to Waitahanui, where we have Tūtetawha Marae, your Ngāti Tūtetawha delegate Matiu Heperi Northcroft, and alternate Mere Wall. Further down to Pakira Marae, Ngāti Tūte Mohuta, your delegate Ngātoru Wall, and alternate Takiora Wall. Travelling down, we reach Ngāti Te Rangiita, Waitetoko Marae, your delegate Te Rangitua Matotoru Maniapoto. To Turangi, we come to Ngāti Hine, Korohe Marae, your delegate Hemi Biddle, and alternate Tania Ryan. Moving along to Rongomai Marae, Ngāti Rongomai, your delegate Jeanette Trago, and alternate Rana Mihi Mamao Dick. Into Turangi Township, we come to Hirangi Marae, Ngāti Turangi Tukua, your delegate Hariata Paki, and alternate Hine Mohi. Over to Puhaurangi Marae, Ngāti Karawia, your delegate David Livingston, and alternate Danica Sarank Tipene. Finally, to Waihi Marae, where sits Tāpeka Marae, Ngāti Turumakina, your delegate Peter Mariu, and alternate Patricia Ortami. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
Thank you very much, Tania, for that. We've received apologies, which will be recorded in the minute. If there are any further apologies of registered uri, please use the question and answer button in Slido for those also to be recorded. So there is a resolution that the apologies for the annual general meeting of Te Kotahitanga Ngāti Tūwharetoa, Saturday 16th of October 2021, be received and accepted. Moved by myself, Wiari Rohina, seconded by Tania Te Ako. Please use the polls button in Slido to submit your vote, and we'll give you time to do that. The motion has been accepted. Thank you. Moving on, we will now go to the previous minutes, can be found on page 74 to 79 of those who have hard copies of your report, the minute will be taken as read. Any corrections can be submitted via the question and answer button on Slido. Te Paimanaki will confirm if there are any corrections. If none, I'll read the resolution as per the slide. Minute of the annual general meeting of Te Kotahitanga Ngāti Tūwharetoa, held Sunday the 18th of October 2020, be received and accepted with corrections. I remind you to go to the Slido where you can register your vote. Thank you. The motion has been accepted. Moving on, we'll now have our reports regarding the whakamihi kia Tā Mikaelen and my chair report.
Ko Tūwharetoa te iwi, ko Tūwharetoa te hapu. Ka au ki matanuku, ka au ki matarangi, ka au ki tēnei whenua hei whenua. Mau e kai te manawa o tauhou. I arrive where there is an unknown land beneath me. I arrive where there is an unknown sky above me. To this land, O land, this servant humbly gives his heart as nourishment for you. Although this kōrero was first spoken by Ngā Toro Irangi on his arrival to these lands 30 generations before, it is also very appropriate that this kōrero be associated with Tā Makaere, Sir Michael. Because when he first came to us, he too was a stranger to a strange land. We pay tribute to Tā Makaere because he too gave his heart to this strange land and the hapu that lived upon it. Our heartfelt acknowledgements go to Tā Makaere and his family, to his beautiful wife Anne and to their daughters. His determination and commitment to support hapu, their aspirations and vision for a better future will echo for many generations to come and will never diminish from our tribal memory. Nō reira, e tā Makaere, ko tēnei te mihi kia koe, ko tēnei te aroha kia koe, e kore e motu, e kore e ngoi kore tia.
Tēnā koutou. Te Kotahitanga continuously strives for the unity of ngā hapu o Ngāti Tūwharetoa and advocates for their absolute acknowledgement by our treaty partners of their aspirations aligned with the tikanga o ngā pau e toru. During COVID-19, we saw an outpouring of support following the call from our ariki. Collective efforts throughout Aotearoa ensured the health and safety and well-being of our people. Through our kaupapa tūkainga Tūwharetoa, Te Kotahitanga provided support to the frontline groups and maintained continuous communications to and from our people. The cultural harvest is an important kaupapa. In July 2020, the cultural harvest was completed to support tangihanga held on our marae in Ngāti Tūwharetoa. We were privileged to again have the support of Rongomai Marae, with the Department of Conservation and the Te Kanu Youth Group to undertake this important mahi. Without their tautoko, this kaupapa would not have been possible. Upon the request of Ngāti Whioro, Te Kotahitanga presented a submission to amend the Lake Taupo Navigational Safety Bylaw 2017 and to seek the removal of the Waihaha Bay access lane. As was common in the past, Ngāti Whioro were never consulted prior to the establishment of the ski lane at Waihaha. The impact of the ski lane was to deny the hapu of Waihaha the inherent right to enjoy the quality of their papakainga. An amendment has been made to the Taupo Navigational Safety Bylaw 2017 with effect from 8 June 2020. The success derived from the commitment to purchase Monte Vista meets hapu aspirations outlined in Te Kapua Whakapiki. Monte Vista has 40 hospital-level care rooms and 14 terrace units. As of 31st March 2021, average occupancy at Monte Vista was 92%, against an average national aged care occupancy of 88%. Under the previous ownership, approximately 3% of residents identified as Maori. Now there are 40% residents who identify as Maori, with a comfortable number for Ngāti Tūwharetoa. Last year, Tūwharetoa received research funding from the Te Pūnaha Hiringa Māori Innovation Fund to investigate the potential for Monte Vista to purchase and operate a dialysis unit. This project involves the development of a business case to support the benefits of providing this service within Aotearoa. The team is working with a number of key local health providers within Aotearoa. The major stakeholder will be Lakes District Health Board to provide ongoing support. With the announcement of the One National Health Body, discussions have slowed down, but our team are still focusing and engaging on the feasibility of this project. We look forward to the completion and implementation of this service for the community within Ngāti Tūwharetoa. Wai puke tunu oku roi mata oku hupe, kei mā kuku takukiri. Tangi hotu hotu ana te puna aroha, hei poroporo aki tō kanoi. Nā reira i te pau namu ārero, e hoani, hoki atu rā kia rātau mā. I whāriki hia tō Kotahitanga, whakangaro atu rā. We will now move the resolution to receive the Chair's report, and the resolution is up in front of you. Kotahitanga Ngāti Tūwharetoa Chairperson Report for the year ended 31st of March 2021 be received and accepted, moved by myself, seconded by Bob Smith. As per normal, if you go to the Slido, you'll be able to do your voting there. We'll just give you a little bit more time. I think we were a bit rushed. So, short of singing us a waiata, we'll just remind everybody about the big day today for those who want to go out and get vaccinated. We have in Taupo, the vaccination unit will be at 29 Tōtara Street, Unit 6, and also in Tūrangi at the Health Centre car park.
Kia ora.
Just waiting. I will not sing a song. Just waiting for the votes.
Don't forget, whānau, it's really important that you get vaccinated to protect our whānau, to protect yourself, and particularly our mokopuna, and most who are not vaccinated. So please get vaccinated for their sake.
The resolution has been passed. On to our next item is the reports to be presented by Te Puari Mahi. There's 4 sections. First part will be Tū Kāinga Tūwharetoa. The second part of the report, total report, will be Te Ihirangi. The third part will be Te Kōpū a Kānapanapa. And the fourth part of this report from Te Puari Mahi will be Te Piringa. Bear with us. There will be a considerable amount of time for this, about 20 minutes for this presentation.
Ko tongariro te maunga, ko taupo te moana, ko Tūwharetoa te iwi, ko te hiuhiu te tangata. He mihi, he aroha, he mihi, he aroha. Ko te mihi, he mihi kia rātou kua wehe atu kei tū i tārai o tō tātou kuia a hinanui te pō. Kia rātou kua ngaro i a tātou i roto i te tau kua hipa. Haere, haere, haere atu rā. Kei runga a o rātou ōhaki, ka huri a hau ki a tātou Ngāti Tūwharetoa. Ko te aroha, he aroha ki a tātou nei, ko te whānau me ngā hapu o Ngāti Tūwharetoa. Nō reira, kui mā koroma, ngā whaia, ngā mātua, tuakana teina, Huri noa te iwi, ko te tūmanako, kia ora tātou i roto i tēnei wā raru. Kia ata whai, kia manaaki tātou kia tātou, kia kotahi ai tātou, hei Tūwharetoa, tēnā koutou. Ko Tūwharetoa te hapu, ko Tūwharetoa te iwi. Ka tūkaha te hapu, ka tūkaha te iwi. Ka tūrangatira te hapu, ka tūrangatira te iwi. The health and well-being of Ngāti Tūwharetoa and its hapu is intrinsically connected to the health and well-being of all things within our rohe, within te kawa tapu o ngā pau e toru. Tūkainga Tūwharetoa connects directly to te pau tuatoru, ko Tūwharetoa te hapu, ko Tūwharetoa te iwi. When we look back a few years, Te Ariki and his team travelled to the hapu, whānau and marae of Ngāti Tūwharetoa to hear the voices of our people and their aspirations. Ko te Kotahitanga o Ngāti Tūwharetoa te whakatīnanatanga o te kapua whakapipi. Ara, ngā hapu e whakapipi ana e kore e taia te whakaneke. Ka pērā ki te whakaaro o tamamutu. Ara, mā te whakakotahi o ngā hapu, hei kapua whakapipi, ka ora ai tātou ngā hapu me ngā whakatupuranga ka heke mai. Ko te kaupapa o Tūkainga Tūwharetoa, kia tautoko, kia whakatīnana i ngā tūmanako me ngā moimoia i puta mai te whānau i te kapua whakapipi. The purpose of Tūkainga Tūwharetoa is to realise the intent of te kapua whakapipi. Te Kotahitanga o Ngāti Tūwharetoa resolved in 2019 to establish a governance committee, Tūkainga Tūwharetoa, mandated to advocate and further develop the aspirations of hapu by restoring, protecting and maintaining the social, cultural, health and well-being of our hapu and whānau. Tūkainga Tūwharetoa was established to realise the intent of Te Kapua Whakapipi. Following the COVID-19 emergency lockdown of 2020, through the direction of hapu, Tūkainga took an immediate leadership role in ensuring the delivery of services, resource and information to every corner of Ngāti Tūwharetoa whānau. One kaupapa was Te Pāparo COVID-19. Ka mate kainga tahi, ka ora kainga rua. Following the call of our ariki, Tā Tumu, Tūkainga collaborated with support and service entities to support whānau and hapu throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. Tūkainga led a collaborative approach and formed a collective of frontline kai manaaki. Te korowai rōpū tautoko, Tūwharetoa Health, Tūrangi Food Bank, Te Whare Oranga Wairua, Women's Refuge, and Matua Whāngai Iwi Services to provide support and comfort to hapu and whānau. Our aspiration to meet the needs of Tūwharetoa throughout the first hit of the global pandemic. Tūkainga registered with Civil Defence and coordinated efforts alongside government protocols, Ministry of Health and iwi entities on a daily basis to provide central coordination of frontline Tūwharetoa and community social and health service entities, kororo atu, kororo mai, providing our people with knowledge and comfort during the lockdown, real-time situational assessments of issues, challenges and essential urgent needs identified by hapu, isolated and vulnerable whānau and local providers. Providing manaakitanga by supporting the identified needs of hapu, whānau and the wider community and advocating for volunteers, local providers and civil defence. Last year, Tūkainga supported in the establishment of the Awhi Kai Healthy Lunches. This was a program at Tūwharetoa School, with start-up pūtea to operate before central government funds kicked in for them to continue. For many tamariki, these fresh hot meals at school is their only kai. The Awhi Kai program has significantly increased attendance and learning performance of tamariki at school. Kia whakakaha ngā hapu me ngā whānau kia whakatupu kia whakaoranga. Ko nei tūmanako te pūtake o tō tātou tūrangatira. Kia tae ngā uri o Ngāti Tūwharetoa kia whakakotahi hei tautoko tātou e a tātou. The foundation of our tribal strength and unity is strong hapu, strong whānau. Tūwharetoa people come together to support each other. Nō reira, kua tai mai tātou ki te wāhanga tuarua o enei ripoata. The second part of this report is another kaupapa that embodies the intent of Te Kapua Whakapipi in supporting the empowerment of hapu and whānau. In 2019, Te Kotahitanga o Ngāti Tūwharetoa mandated Te Ihirangi to collaborate on the kaupapa of Te Ihirangi. This is a tikanga-based sustainable cultural tourism kaupapa defined and led by the tikanga of the hapu of Ngāti Tūwharetoa. The goal being to empower hapu to lead the tourism industry within the rohe o Ngāti Tūwharetoa. Te Ihirangi is guided by Te Kapua Whakapipi to support hapu to be primary sites of manaaki tangata, to sit within a framework that acknowledges the social cultural aspirations of hapu, to restore hapu and whānau as primary sites of industry and well-being, to advocate planning, budgeting and funding in this kaupapa, that hapu may eventually engage directly with the appropriate agencies in their own right. In response to the New Zealand Aotearoa Government Tourism Strategy Policy, released in 2019, intended to create destination management plans across the country, the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment facilitated monthly hui throughout the year to develop a destination management plan within our rohe. Te Kotahitanga o Ngāti Tūwharetoa introduced and advocated the kaupapa of Te Ihirangi as the basis for the Taupo Tongariro Destination Management Plan. This has resulted in ngā pauetoru being adopted as the foundational overarching values for co-developing the Destination Management Plan and grow a Taupo Tongariro district in a way that reflects the tikanga of Ngāti Tūwharetoa as the foundation of a destination of excellence for visitors, residents, the environment and economy. Te Kotahitanga o Ngāti Tūwharetoa actively maintains monitoring and protection of the kaupapa of Te Ihirangi. Te Kotahitanga o Ngāti Tūwharetoa facilitated hapu cluster wānanga from late February 2021 to determine and identify manaaki tangata manaaki whenua aspirations in the tourism space, empowering and enabling hapu to be significant participants in the industry. The following Te Kotahitanga o Ngāti Tūwharetoa hapu delegates and wider hapu whānau members attended the wānanga. Ngāti Hineure, Ngāti Mananui, Ngāti Rui Ngārangi, Ngāti Te Kōhera, Ngāti Te Urunga, Te Kapo o Te Rangiita. Each wānanga covered guiding principles of ngā pauetoru, values of rangatiratanga, manaakitanga and kaitiakitanga, te kōpū o kānapanapa, te piringa, followed by hapu members workshopping their mana a hapu in the tourism space, targeting their own hapu aspirations in manaaki tangata, manaaki whenua. The wānanga were available to all hapu, allowing hapu to exercise their mana a hapu by either engaging or choosing not to. The outcome for the hapu that did engage was, in collaboration with local government, a dedicated tourism expert was made available to work directly with hapu to transform their aspirations into hapu tourism plans, with the further intention of being able to use these plans to access funding in their own right, resource and support in this field. Nō reira, kia koutou ngā uri o Ngāti Tūwharetoa, tū hapu, tū whānau, tū kāinga, tū wharetoa. Kia koutou ngā uri o te kāinga, ko tēnei te mihi, ki tō tātou āriki, a tā tumu te heuheu. Ko tēnei te mihi ki a tātou, ngā hapu, ngā whānau o te kāinga, ara, ko ta ārikitanga. Ko tēnei hoki te mihi, ki a tātou katoa, huri noa, tēnā koutou, huri noa, tēnā tātou katoa. Ko ea.
E te ariki, kei te mihi ki a koe me te whare o te heuheu. E ngā hapu, e ngā whānau, ka nui te mihi ki a koutou katoa. My kōrero today will highlight the features of two mechanisms of our claim settlement. These are te kopua kanapanapa and te piringa. The details of these mechanisms are provided in the annual report. Te kopua kanapanapa and te piringa have been constructed from the kaupapa that have inspired our aspirations for settlement and for our future. These kaupapa are ngā paue toru and te kapua whakapipi. Te kopua kanapanapa and te piringa are mechanisms that have been designed to deliver the intent of these kaupapa. Te kopua kanapanapa has two meanings within Ngāti Tūwharetoa. Traditionally, it means the shimmering womb of te ika a Maui. This is explained within the annual report. Te kopua kanapanapa is also the name of the entity established in our claims settlement. It is made up of the Taupo District Council, the Waikato Regional Council and te Kotahitanga o Ngāti Tūwharetoa. In this 8-member committee, te Kotahitanga holds 50% representation. Te kopua kanapanapa is endowed with many important functions. Its principal goal is to empower Ngāti Tūwharetoa to exercise mana whakahaere and kaitiakitanga, especially in determining outcomes for land use and natural resource management. Te kopua kanapanapa is charged with the responsibility to prepare and approve the high-level management plan for the Taupo catchment. This plan is called Te Kaupapa Kaitiaki. It is a key instrument for including our aspirations and transforming outcomes within our rohe. An important fact about Te Kaupapa Kaitiaki is that it has a strong legal status. This is something that the RMA failed to bestow on iwi management plans, which Ngāti Tūwharetoa relied heavily upon to realise its vision and aspirations over the past 20 or 30 years. This legal position means that local authorities, like the Taupo District Council and Waikato Regional Council, must recognise and provide for the vision, objectives, desired outcomes and values of Te Kaupapa Kaitiaki each time they prepare or review or vary an RMA planning document. Also, local authorities must have particular regard to Te Kaupapa Kaitiaki when preparing or approving their long-term or annual plans. It is important to note that these plans determine future expenditure and project priorities for these local authorities. And when considering resource consents that constantly frustrate us with their failure to recognise tikanga and hapu values, the Environmental Protection Authority must have particular regard to Te Kaupapa Kaitiaki in approving these consents. Te Kaupapa Kaitiaki is currently under preparation. It has been subject to its first round of consultation, and approval of this document is planned for the second half of 2022. An extensive consultation process is intended for ngā hapu o Ngāti Tūwharetoa. Currently, the Taupo District Plan is under review. Ngāti Tūwharetoa kaupapa will guide the content and preparation of this district plan. The review process this time is being put under huge pressure because major reforms of the resource and freshwater management legislation and policy are being undertaken. These undertakings by the Crown include reform of the Resource Management Act itself, Three Waters Management, and Mana o Te Wai. Te Piringa is a partnership that must recognise and provide for Ngāti Tūwharetoa mana whakahaere, tino rangatiratanga and kaitiakitanga in the governance and management of Te Korowai Kaitiaki. This term refers to the land managed by DOC within the rohe of Ngāti Tūwharetoa. Te Piringa supports DOC's statutory commitment to give effect to the principles of Te Tiriti o Waitangi. Under Te Piringa, Ngāti Tūwharetoa will achieve meaningful input into policy, planning and decision-making. A key enabler for this is the co-authorship and co-design by Ngāti Tūwharetoa of the Tongariro Taupo Conservation Management Strategy. This is the principal governance document for all DOC-managed whenua and Te Korowai Kaitiaki. Te Piringa also embraces a commitment to enable hapu to build capacity, whakapikitanga and capability, whakapakiritanga. During the settlement negotiations and Te Kapua Whakapipi Hui, the Western Bay's hapu signalled their urgent concerns to protect their ancestral whenua and taonga located on whenua managed by DOC. This request resulted in the formation of the Western Bay Forum as part of the settlement. Now known as Te Hauauru Forum, it comprises 10 hapu of the Western Bays. The hapu can enter a management agreement with the Director General of Conservation over DOC-managed whenua in the Western Bays area. The Whakaipo Bay project is underway. It reflects the joint cooperation of DOC and the hapu of Te Kapo Te Rangita. A plan is being developed by both parties to realise exciting outcomes for Te Kapo Te Rangita and the wider community. This take is the primary joint focus of the Crown and Ngāti Tūwharetoa under Te Piringa. Unfortunately, history demonstrates that Ngāti Tūwharetoa has been almost completely sidelined from actively exercising a protection role for New Zealand's indigenous biodiversity. This position is anomalous and unacceptable given the customary right of Ngāti Tūwharetoa as kaitiaki of the natural taonga and the unprecedented subjugation of Ngāti Tūwharetoa-owned land for biodiversity protection. In late 2019, Te Kotahitanga and Hapu had their first post-settlement opportunity to consider the biodiversity protection strategy of the Crown. The Hui was convened by DOC and the Ministry for the Environment. Some key issues arising from this hui. The first is that Te Kotahitanga is the mandated iwi authority for Ngāti Tūwharetoa under the trust deed. The Ngāti Tūwharetoa hapu are kaitiaki at place of indigenous biodiversity within our rohe, and they have an inherent right to uphold kawa, tikanga and mātauranga as affirmed under Te Tiriti o Waitangi. The Crown must honour its obligations under Te Tiriti o Waitangi. The Crown must protect and promote our settlement mechanisms, Te Kupua Kanapanapa and Te Piringa, especially when preparing and approving statutes and policy directions, including its proposed National Policy Statement on Indigenous Biodiversity. These and several other directions were reiterated in subsequent engagements with the Crown in 2020. Your endorsement of the position outlined above and detailed within the annual report will be greatly appreciated. Nō reira, ka nui te mihi ki a koutou katoa.
Thank you, George and Tangaihe, for those reports. We have a resolution. It's been moved by Tangaihe Waniko and seconded by Bessie Pai. The resolution reads Te Kotahitanga Ngāti Tūwharetoa, Tūkainga Tūwharetoa report for the year ended 31st of March 2021 be received and accepted. Once again, you go to your Slido to record your vote.
Kia ora whānau, just while we're waiting, don't forget we have Super Saturday for our vaccinations. So if you head up to 29 Tōtara Street in Taupō or the Tūrangi Health Centre car park, rock up there, get your vaccinations, protect yourself, protect our whānau. I have checked at this table, I've checked everybody's certificates, we're all double vaccinated at this table. Kia ora whānau.
There'll be 3 more resolutions regarding the reports that have been presented. The resolution has been accepted. The next resolution. That Te Kotahitanga Ngāti Tūwharetoa Te Ihirangi report for the year ended 31st of March 2021 be received and accepted. Moved Te Ngaihu Wanikau, seconded Maria Te Urihiri Murray. Please go to Slido to record your vote.
There aren't a lot of people voting at the moment, whānau, so don't forget to get on there, make sure your vote's counted. And just a quick shout out to some of our whānau that I'm told are online. So, kia ora e te whānau Ngāti Karawia, Turamakina, tū te Mahuta, hene rau, hene uri. Tēnā koutou.
The resolution has been accepted. Our third resolution is Te Kotahitanga Ngāti Tūwharetoa Te Kōpū a Kanapanapa report for the year ended 31st of March 2021 be received and accepted. Moved by George Asher and seconded by... We do have a seconder. The seconder is Rana Dick.
Very good, George.
The resolution is carried. Our last resolution for this report, that Te Kotahitanga Ngāti Tūwharetoa Te Piringa report for the year ended 31st of March 2021 be received and accepted. Moved George Asher, second Jacqueline Iorangi.
Whānau, our chair's just waiting for a few more votes to come in, so if you want to have your say, don't forget, click on the poll in favour or against.
Thank you. resolution has been accepted and carried. Thank you. We'll now go to our next report, which is to do with the properties, and that will be spoken to by our property manager starting now. Are we now?
Te Kotahitanga managed 41 redress properties. It has taken Te Kotahitanga a year to properly align the total district council rates, as the national database has not kept up with the changes. The process is now being completed. The Takane thermal pool's old water supply systems were unreliable and caused ongoing issues. Water was being sourced from the town supply, whereas we already had a water consent for one of the streams. This has seen a 98% reduction in commercial water use costs. The thermal water and cold water systems have now all been replaced. The Takane business sales and accounting systems have been upgraded from the archaic previous system inherited from DOC. It is now in line with best practice and modern systems. A new viewing pavilion at Karapiti was erected and opened and led by Hapu on the 13th of November 2020. Waihi Pukawa continued to hold the lease for Taurewa Farm. There has been extensive redevelopment of riparian fencing to keep the waterways safe and align with national freshwater legislation. The leasee continues to have a progressive program of reinvigorating the whenua. In conjunction with the Department of Conservation, they continue to maintain the reserves along the eastern side of Lake Taupo until these properties are returned to Hapu. The conclusion of the mana whenua processes for each property in establishing appropriate Hapu entities to legally receive the properties remains a high priority. Ngā mihi, kia koutou, katoa.
Thank you, Grant. The resolution, Te Kotahitanga Ngāti Tūwharetoa Properties Report for the year ended 31st of March 2021 be received and accepted. Moved Grant Smith, seconded Irena Waniko. Just an acknowledgement to any of the attendees today who may be outside of our rohe. Mihi atu nei kia koutou. And while we're just waiting for the vote counts, if anybody's got any winning numbers for the $35 million, please put them into the question and answers. Thank you.
Got my ticket, thank you.
Just waiting for one more lucky vote. Oh,
Hope that's the Powerball.
Powerball number's 40. The resolution has been passed.
Kia ora.
Tēnā koutou. Now we'll go to the financial report presented by Danny Loughlin.
Audited group financial statements include Te Kotahitanga o Ngāti Tūwharetoa Trust, Te Kotahitanga o Ngāti Tūwharetoa Custodian Trustees Limited, and the partners allocation in Te Whare Honongo Limited Partnership or Monte Vista. The independent auditor's report from Dixon & Co. on pages 58 and 59 of the annual report give a clean bill of health on our financial statements. So what were the main sources of our income? Number one was our sales from Te Kanu Hot Pools, $570,000. Next was our lease fees from Tūwharetoa Station and our other properties at $463,000. Interest income from term deposits was $294,000, and then our partnership allocation from Monte Vista was $210,000. So total income was $1.68 million, down slightly from last year's $1.7 million, which was mainly due to a drop in interest income. The breakdown of income shows these results graphically. 34% Te Kanu Hot Pools, 28% lease fees received, 17% interest income, and 13% from Monte Vista. Our income was used to pay expenses: $256,000 on governance costs, $537,000 on management expenses, $480,000 on administration costs, $161,000 on property expenses, and $328,000 on operational expenditure. There was a drop in expenses from $1.95 million last year to $1.83 million this year. Pages 61 to 66 of our annual report shows in detail how the income and expenses are tracked. Pages 67 to 68 has detail on each of the properties administered directly by Te Kotahitanga, and finally we have detail on each of the properties administered by Ngāti Tūwharetoa Custodian Trustees Limited. You can read these at your leisure. The breakdown of expenses shows these results graphically: 29% management, 26% administration, 18% operational expenditure, and 14% on governance. The trust had a loss before taxation of $168,000. Tax paid loss for the year increased to $193,000 after income tax of $25,000. The trust approved a capital distribution of $1 million to Kawerau A8D Maori Reservation Trust. This was part of the settlement specifically to support the restoring of the Maori of Tūwharetoa Spring and for the environmental remediation scholarship to improve the Maori of the spring. Te Kotahitanga o Ngāti Tūwharetoa endorsed the transfer of the Cultural Regis Pūtea $1 million to Tūwharetoa after the claimant's established entity Tūwharetoa or Tūwharetoa Trust and was therefore paid in this financial year. So while the net trustees' loss for the year was $1.19 million, the operating loss was $193,000 as the $1 million was a distribution of funds held in trust. The trust capital of $9,000, which came from the Tūwharetoa Hapu Forum, and the settlement received of $29.4 million after covering any pre-settlement debt, as expected didn't change during the year. Our retained earnings loss worsened by $457,000 and is a wero for our trustees to find further savings in the 2022 year. Cultural cash redress as discussed, $1 million. We still have $2.95 million cultural cash redress left, $2.5 million for the wharetaonga, $250,000 for mahenga kai, and $200,000 for revitalisation of Aratiatia and Atahaka. Hapu retained earnings is just that, funds put aside from cultural regis income. This year's $264,000 was made up of the $131,000 from Te Kotahitanga properties, $131,000 from Te Kanu Hot Pools, and $2,000 from Hotu Grace Road. So the assets are what we own. Our balance sheet doesn't include cultural redress properties which were vested from the Crown at no cost and held in trust.
Bank and term deposits, $19.5 million. Taurewa Station, $8 million. Part Kariori Crown Forestry Land, $500,000. And related party receivables are the advances to Te Whare Honanga Limited Partnership or Monte Vista of $2.9 million. Our liabilities are what we owe. The biggest debt was $682,000 to the TST, which is being repaid in monthly instalments. And that ends our financial report. Ngā mihi nui ki a koe.
Ngā mihi, Danny, o tō kōrero pāna me pēhea tō mātou pūtea. We will now have the first of 4 resolutions. Te Kotahitanga Ngāti Tūwharetoa audited consolidated group financial statements for the year ended 31st of March 2021 be received and accepted, moved by Dominic Otami and seconded by myself. Please indicate your voting on the Slido form. Once again, ni mihi ati nei ki a koutou o tēnā hapu o tātou. Ko whakarongo mai ki tēnei kōrero.
Just waiting for some more votes to come in, whānau.
The resolution has been passed. Resolution 2. Ngāti Tūwharetoa Uri approved Dixon & Co. Chartered Accountants as auditor for the annual financial statements for the year ending 31st of March 2022. Kei a koutou, te pōti. Resolution 2 has been passed. So we have this next resolution. Now I've been told that the full details cannot be printed on the screen for your voting. However, it does read Resolution 3 whakamarama, breakdown of trustees' fees, 115,000 gross per annum, trustees' fees 45,000, subcommittee fees 40,000, chairs' fees 30,000. And the resolution reads, Ngāti Tūwharetoa Uri approve remuneration to its trustees representative of the 26 hapu of Ngāti Tūwharetoa as listed. Trustees' fees no more than 115,000 gross per annum. This includes trustees' fees, chairman's fees, deputy chair fees and subcommittee fees. Moved by Dominic Otami, second Danny Lachlan.
Whānau, just a point too, you may not be able to see all of resolution in your poll, but please refer back to the slide that will show you the whole resolution. At the same time, I have received a couple of queries in regard to the trustee fees. That is for all of the fees. The 115,000 is for all of the fees for all of the trustees.
Not per person.
Not per person.
Very good.
Ko marama ni. Ana kei a koutou te pōti.
And a reminder, there will be opportunity after these resolutions to ask questions. Okay. Just a reminder, whānau, that once you've actually voted, you are able to come back to the video.
Thank you. The resolution 3 has been passed. The final resolution regarding our financial reports, Ngāti Tūwharetoa Uri approve remuneration to the trustee members of its subcommittee to Puari Mahi as listed. Te Puari Mahi trustee member fees, no more than 12,000 gross per member per annum at a maximum of $48,000 gross per annum for up to 4 Te Puari Mahi trustee members. Moved, Danny Lachlan. Second, Wiari Rohina. Kei a koutou te pōti.
Also, ngā mihi māhana to our whānau of Ngāti Mananui, Ngāti Tarangiita and Ngāti Hinamihi who have joined us as well. Ngā mihi kia koutou. Just waiting for a few more votes, whānau. Please use your poll if you want to vote.
Thank you, everyone. That resolution has been carried. So moving on, we're on to our next part of our hui today is live question and answers. And I'll hand this over to Tania.
Ai, kia ora whānau. Thank you, Wiari. So, whānau, this is your opportunity to ask questions on any of the reports that you've heard today. And what I will do is read out your question and then I will pass that on to the relevant person at this table to answer for you. So the first question that we have from Te Ariki Tātumu, tēnā koe e Te Ariki, and asked by Paranapa Otami, who is joining him. How can whakatau 8 be carried when there was 24 against and 24 in favour and 5 abstaining? Please respond. So this was in terms of our last minute, yes. So I'll hand that to you, Chair.
Ngā mihi mō tō pātai, Paranapa. You're correct. It shouldn't have been that. I've been advised that there was a printing error and it should have been written as not carried. Koina te whakamārama. E pātai anō?
Just waiting for our next question to come up, whānau. If you have any questions at all, send them through. They'll come up in front of us and we'll pass that on to the relevant person. Kia ora whānau, another question from Uncle Paranapa Otami. No opportunity to have question answered of the Chair's report or any report. Can I give that to you to answer, Chair?
duly noted your concern, and I take it that it's a comment that's being raised. We can, in the future, ensure that there is more time available or provision is made for that. Koinei te rerekētanga mai I tēnei tūāhuatanga I te kanohi ki te kanohi nera. Mēnā ka hui ai tātou I roto I te whare tūpuna, te whare puni, I kiti ai te kanohi ki te kanohi, te ārero ki te ārero. Hea no, ko mātou te he o tēnei tūāhuatanga I pātai mai I koe. Thank you. We'll take note of your concern, and should we repeat this process, then we'll take into consideration how we can best accommodate that.
And as we're talking whānau, please, if you have any questions at all, get them in here so that we're able to answer them. Uncle Napa, can we have a copy of the amended bylaw for you?
Assuming you're regarding the bylaw referring to Waihaha.
Waihaha.
Yeah. Well, no, we don't actually have a copy in the office, but I'm sure you can get that through the normal stationery or the harbour master.
Right. Did you want to talk more on that, George? Carl? Kia ora. All right, just looking for the next question, whānau. Kia ora, cousin Shirl, nice to see you on here. Your pātai, a te Māori e te whānau, kia ora mō o mahi koutou. He Hauauru Forum, when was the charter agreed and is it accessible by hapu?
Response to that, Cheryl, no, the charter hasn't been completed as of yet. There have been progressive discussions regarding the formation of that charter, but it hasn't been registered.
Are they able to? Looking for our next question. Oh, kia ora, cousin Gwen Brooking. How can we sustain expenses that far exceed income? Leave that for you, Danny.
Kia ora, Gwen. The answer, like you say, we can't. And certainly, since I've been on the Finance Committee, we have put a lot of focus in this area. So recently, we've moved to put our funds in a more conventional managed fund to increase the income. And then also we're looking at a range of areas where we can save on expenses. And we started with the real easy ones, which is to have a few less meetings of Kotahitanga itself, and getting quite focused in terms of basically all aspects of the organisation. And the main one is just trying to keep the business simple as well, and that helps us drive down those costs. In my presentation, I called that the wero, the challenge for our Kotahitanga as a whole, and they're quite clear. There's very strong focus on budgeting, a strong focus on having a balanced budget, and that's been led by our chair. So yes, the answer is you can't sustain that, and that's why it is quite high on the list of priorities for Kotahitanga.
Great answer, Danny. Thank you. Next question. Kia ora, Paula Marie McKenzie. Kia ora whānau. Are we confident that everyone in the Hui is a registered member, or even Ngāti Tūwharetoa? Link was shared online, not necessarily via email. And I can answer that myself, whānau, is that Pai Manaki, our administration team, will go through all of those who are online, and they will be checking that everybody is registered. Ngā mihi. Next question, ladies.
Yeah. Good question.
Kia ora, taku whanaunga, Fiona Kahura Chase. Ngā mihi kia koutou e te whānau o Kākahi Marae. Uncle Duncan and Mum, Eva Tute Mahurangi, would like to invite TKNT AGM 2022 to be held at Kākahi Marae. Hapai!
Ngā mihi.
Okay, so our next question, kia ora, aroha French. Would TKT consider purchasing Motutere camping ground up for sale to assist Ngāti Te Rangiita in hopes of assisting them to run the operation for the whānau, hapu and iwi? Now I'm going to pass that question straight to Danny as he would be thinking about the financial aspects of that. Kia ora, Danny.
I don't know if I'm the right person to answer this question. Certainly, my understanding is a lot of work's being done by our whānau in Te Rangiita in terms of securing the actual whenua, and that's progressing, is my understanding, with Taupo District Council. In terms of purchasing the business itself, which is on top of those arrangements, currently we're not planning to do anything in that area, and certainly we haven't done any research. In terms of the previous question, we are quite focused in terms of increasing our income, and that's why there's been work with putting our funds in just a more general managed fund to increase our income. So there's no plans to do that, and yeah, I don't know if I've answered that question. But
Yeah. Grant, did you have anything to add to that from the properties?
It's not sitting within the Te Kotahitanga properties, but probably the big thing there is be the due diligence, the planning, the budgets. So there's a lot of work to be done there. So it's not on the radar at the moment.
Kia ora.
Kia ora, aroha. He whakaaro tāku. I think it's an issue that could still be presented to the Kotahitanga board, and it may be able to start a process where we can work together on it until we get to a point of, is it feasible, is it not feasible, does it fit our overall planning to te kapua whakapipi, does it fit our ngā pau e toru, and so from that point of view, the door's open.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so we've got a few questions. We're going to be running as many as they can. We're just waiting for them to show up on our screen so we can answer those for you, whānau. A little bit of a delay. Okay, kia ora, Cheryl Taylor. Expenses. What is the Chairman's Fund and what are Directors' fees, travel and expenses? What was the consultant structural review for? All seem like finance questions, Danny. We'll leave that to you.
I'm going to do my best to answer your questions, Cheryl, but like any other questions that we have today, you are able also to contact the tari, the office, after the AGM if we don't get all the answers today. So the chair is an annual set amount, which we covered earlier on the slide, for the chair's role. Directors' fees, there are 3 directors, myself, Matt Andrews and Te Moana Nui Ramaka, and they sit on the company called Te Kotahitanga o Ngāti Tūwharetoa Custodians Trustees Limited. We call it CTL because it's quicker. And their role is to manage certain properties and ultimately to assist the return. Travel and expenses are just that. They will be standard mileage for trustees in that case, otherwise they're conventional travel expenses for management. What was the consultant structural review for? I'm not sure, I might let someone else answer that one, but my understanding is there was a review of the way that the organisation is structured, probably partly driven by some of those financial issues. So they engaged an independent consultant to provide some advice on that. And it was also, my understanding was to also assist to work out how Kotahitanga could also deliver more to its hapu. Hopefully that answers your questions. If it doesn't, we can sort that later.
Yes.
Operating expenses, what do repairs and maintenance relate to? I'm going to hand that one over to Grant at the end there.
Yeah, the repairs and maintenance, there's certain reserves out there that we get mowed. There's probably one of the big places we get mowed, we mow all the time is the former Tauranga Taupo school. It's got at the moment it's vacant. It doesn't have a leasee in here, so we're covering off on that. There's other parts around where we're looking at replacing a lot of the signs. As Doc exit those areas, we're paying 50-50. Doc will pay half and we'll pay half. We found some other cash that they can help us out with. Yeah, a lot of it is just looking after the whenua until we can pass that back to hapu.
Thanks for that, Grant. And just to add to that, a significant amount of the repairs and maintenance do actually relate to the Te Kanu hot pools, who were not handed back in pristine condition by Doc, might I add. And the second part of that question was, what are staff training and staff travel and expenses for?
Those are likely to be tied up with Te Kanu hot pools. What I'd suggest is if you can download the annual report. As I said in my presentation, there's quite a lot of detail. We're a very unusual organisation that we put quite a bit of detail in terms of the various properties and how much funds are being spent against those. So you'll probably get a few of those questions answered if you have a look through there, and you'll see the bulk of that relates to training our staff at the Te Kanu hot pools.
And just a reminder, whānau, you can also download that report on Slido itself. So I've got another two questions from Fiona Kahura Trace. And so the first one is a question about expense of administration of TKNT and how long did the trustees think that this can be sustained? Danny?
That's an interesting one. It can be sustained till you run out of money, but the real answer is we've got obligations under the Trustees Act 2019. We've got responsibilities under the trust deed, and we've got a responsibility in terms of te kapo whakapipi. That's the standard that we need to meet. So we're, like I say, we're spending quite a bit of time in terms of our budgets, driving down costs so we can get to a place where we are in a surplus, if that answers the question. Kia ora.
Yeah, kia ora. Just before we move on to the next question too, I just want to apologise to whānau. I believe that there may be some technical issues that some of you are experiencing. So just our apologies, and we're trying to get those right as we speak. And down to the next question, what benefit does each 26 hapu realise in real form? And I'm going to pass that to the chair.
Ngā mihi mō tō pātai. I think the best way to answer that question is effectively that's determined by what each hapu wants to benefit. It's a reciprocal and symbiotic relationship where we're all working together. Te Kotahitanga in itself provides an opportunity to facilitate whatever the aspirations of each hapu are determined by them. And as a collective, it is then up to us to ensure that we can find the resources or access the resources for each hapu to go about their aspirations. So that is the way that I would answer your question. The real benefit is determined by the hapu, and as a collective, we try to work together to ensure that we can get a collective approach to each individual hapu's issues. Kia ora.
Kia ora, and before I move on to the next one, kia ora Dominic or to me. Just Dominic's letting us know that Kōkiri Trust is open today from 3 p.m. in Taumata Nui for vaccinations. So whānau, please get down there and get vaccinated. Take your whānau, they take walk-ins. You walk in there, you'll get the jab. Kia ora. Also, the next question from Fiona Kahura Chase. A question from the floor at Kākahi Marae. Do the trustees see a conflict of interest with trustees being consultants and directors of consultancy, which TKNT pay? Just going to hand that to you, Danny.
I'm not sure if I'm the right one to answer that. So certainly the way this organisation is set up is there is a finance committee and they sign off on all the bills. There is work being done to make sure that the work that is undertaken by Te Puari Mahi members in that capacity is being managed well and, more importantly, prioritised. That's an ongoing bit of work. You've got a lot of tensions between the aspirations that we have as an organisation and the cold, hard realities of only a limited income. So the short answer is yes, there's a conflict of interest, and that's why we have finance committee in place to manage that. And also, it's also managed through the chairman of Puari Mahi.
Finance committee.
We're still working on it, whānau.
Kia ora. Kia ora whānau. Now here's a couple of statements. Really lovely one. Kia ora Danica Sarank Tempene. This Slido is the most beautiful I have ever seen. Your team is incredibly amazing. So, is that you, Danny, or is that you, Wiari?
Must be all of us.
We're using digital filters to make us look good.
Hi. And kia ora, Buffy Nepia. Nice to see you. Erere ana te mihi aroha kia koutou te Puari matua katoa me ngā whānau, me ngā whanaunga, te ngaihi Waniko me George Asher, nā Buffy, kei kirikiri roi noho ana. Oh, kei te pai. Kei te pai. Also, Danica, tino ātāhua ko mātou down Sarank whanaunga e te ngaihi tauke. Thank you, Danica, that's lovely. All right. Also, she says, tino ātāhua tō koutou āhuatanga i ngā pikitia me ngā kōrero. Aroha nui koutou katoa. Okay, ngā mihi whānau. So that's all the questions that we have at the moment. So I'll hand it back to you, Chair.
Right. Thank you, Tania. E mihi atu nei kia koutou. Ia pātai mai kia mātou nei e pāho ana te māramatanga o tō tātou haringa a te Kotahitanga Ngāti Tūwharetoa. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for the bouquets. E mihi atu nei kia koutou. This has been our first attempt with using this medium in which to communicate with our beneficiaries. As I've said during the proceedings, he rereke noiho tēnei tūāhuatanga, somewhat different to what we are used to kanohi ki te kanohi, he anō. Long as there's been a conveyance of information and reporting back to the beneficiaries, we're happy with that. And I am pleased that
Yes.
everybody has been able to partake.
Just before we carry on, Chair, just to remind whānau that any of the questions that do remain unanswered, they will be responded to following the AGM by our team. And back to you, Chair.
Thank you, Tania. Nō reira ka hoatu te rākau ki te ngaihe kia whakakapia tō tātou huihuinga o tēnei rā. Nā reira, mihi ati nei kia koutou i rote te aroha whakapona māramatanga a ihoa. I nai nei ake nei, āmine.
Āmine. Come on, team.
Ngā mihi kia tātou, kia koutou, ngā te Tūwharetoa before. Thank you, Chair. Before I do the karakia whakamutunga, I'd like our Pai Manaki For every house there's a backbone, and for every work stream there's also a backbone. He tuara. And so, ho mai taroha ki a rātou, ngā mana wahine, e mahi ana kei roto i te paimanaki o te Kotahitanga o Tūwharetoa. Nō reira, me noi tātou. E te kaihanga ki runga rā, te kaihanga o ngā mea katoa. Kia koutou ngā kaitiaki e noho ana kei runga i ngā tini āhuatanga o te taiao o Ngāti Tūwharetoa. Kia koutou hoki ngā tūpuna e noho ana, e tū ana i runga i a mātou ngā uri. Ko tēnei te whakamoimiti kia koe, ko tēnei te whakamoimiti kia koutou. Aha ko te maho o ngā whakapono me i rātou ngā rei wainganui a mātou. Ko te whakaaro i runga i a mātou ka haere ngā ara katoa i mui i te aroaro o te kaihanga. Ho mai ki a mātou nei ngā uri o Ngāti Tūwharetoa. Tō manaakitanga tō rangi Māori e tanga me tō aroha. I te wai uru mai, tēnei uru tā. Ngā māwiwitanga te ngāngara i wainganui a mātou. Tēnei ngāngara i hara mai no tā wāhi. Tai noa ki ngā taku tai o Aotearoa. Ko tēnei mātou anō, ngā i te iwi Maori. E tū ana i te aroaro o te ngāngara e haere tonu mai. Ko mai tō manaakitanga i runga i a mātou ngā whānau, ngā uri, ngā mokopona, ngā kaumātua, tuakana taina, o Ngāti Tūwharetoa huri no, ngā iwi katoa i runga i te mutu. Tēnei te whakamoimiti ki a koutou, ngā kaitiaki, i runga i tēnā hapu, tēnā hapu, tēnā hapu huri no. Ko tēnei mātou, ngā mokopona e heke ana no ngā maunga, ngā pai maunga o te kōpū o kānapanapa. Kei runga i a mātou ko ngā waitapu e rere ana, me horoi te iwi e karangātu nei, kei roto i aua waitapu. E tātua, e te kaihanga, ko tēnei te whakamoimiti ki a koe tō ingoa tapu, e kore e motu, e kore e ngoi, kore e tia. Tia kina te whakapapa o te kainga. Tia kina ngā uri o Ngāti Tūwharetoa kei roto i tō manaakitanga. Ko tēnei te whakamoimiti e kore e motu, e kore e ngoi, kore e tia. Mo ake tonu, e rongo whakairia ki i runga kia tīna. Hui e, tā ki e.
Ka piki wairua ki te whakamenenga, ka tiro whakamuri ki te tūranga tua i te kōpua kānapanapa, ki te paweranga tiro o te heu. Nōna te karangatanga ki o ngā mokopona ruia tai te ae.
Kia tautarangi Māori i rungi a koutou, i rungi a tātou ngā uri o te kainga. Ko tēnei mātou, ngā mokopona o Tongariro, o Tauhara Maunga, ngā pai maunga ko Kaimanawa ko Haungaroa. E mihi atu ki a koe, hongai tō aroha i rungi a mātou, ko ea, ake, ai nei, ai.
Ai.
Koe ware ngā nama.